Hey guys, Crave here. So again, the background is just footage from a different game, just like the expac preview video. Now, even though I've decided to unsub for a bit and play other games, I'm still checking out news on anything surrounding the upcoming expansion. And one of the things that I've recently been toying around with are the sort of rough talent trees for the different classes and specs. Now, this upload will focus on the survival hunter spec and how the shift into a melee fighting style is looking so far from a talent's perspective. Since we're still months away from release, I just want to remind you guys that things are still bound to change, so stuff I say here might change. Of course, without testing, there will be no final recommendations, and anything I find good are just based on what I've read so far. So, here's the current survival tree for hunters in Legion from Wowhead. It's quite the change compared to what we've seen so far, or what we currently know with the current survival spec. The first tier throws in Animal Instincts, Improved Traps, and Way of the Mok'Nathal. Now, Improved Traps is simply a cooldown reduction for traps, so that's pretty easy to understand. Now, the other two are relatively, well, in name, well, at least name-wise, they're pretty new to the spec, but the concepts aren't. So, both of them give you buffs. Now, Mok'Nathal gives you a stacking attack power buff, provided you can keep hitting your target with Raptor Strike, which is pretty much just a standard special attack. Now, Animal Instincts is also a buff you receive after you perform Flanking Strike. Now, Flanking Strike is a dual attack done by the hunter and his or her pet. Now, whoever the intended target isn't attacking at that moment gets more damage from Flanking Strike. So, for example, if the target is hitting the hunter, so the pet will deal an increased amount of damage from Flanking Strike. If it's the other way around, then the hunter will deal more damage to the target. So basically, that's how Flanking Strike works. Now, Animal Instincts also grants a random combat enhancement when Flanking Strike is performed. So I'm not sure what that combat enhancement is. I haven't really seen the details of that. So basically, with the exception of Improved Traps, it looks like Tier 1 will be a tier that buffs you. So depending on how strong trap damage is or trap utility is, it looks like Instincts and Mok'Nathal might be preferred talents since they enhance combat either through the attack power buff or some stat enhancement. Tier 2 has more consistency in that they all appear to be talents that enhance mobility. Posthaste works pretty much like a CC trinket but only removes movement impairing effects and gives you sort of some move speed boost. Now, Farstrider gives you your disengage ability, a charge mechanic with 2 usable charges, and Dash gives you some sort of cheetah aspect increased duration. Now, it's important to note that aspect of the cheetah will change into a speed boost with a CD. Now, the aspect gives you basically, well, what the aspect now, at least in Legion, will give you is a 90% speed boost for 3 seconds, and then right afterwards, you'll get a 30% speed boost for the next 9 seconds. So it no longer mentions the daze effect if your hunter gets attacked. So if that's accurate, then that's pretty good. I never really liked the daze effect for that aspect. Now, well, anyway, the aspect is changing. Now, really a choice, Tier 2 is a choice that's up to you, but I think Post-Haste is looking good in PvP, as it is an additional CC removal, while being able to disengage twice in a row is really good to basically get away from certain abilities, or if you want to wait out certain buffs like Recklessness or things of the sort. Tier 3 puts heavy emphasis on traps with Caltrops, Steel Trap, and Ranger's Net. Now, Caltrops looks like a combination of the current forms of Explosive and Ice Trap, basically all rolled into one. And it actually replaces a sort of new trap, well, new in terms of its name, which is called Tar Trap. Now, Tar Trap is simply just a snare type trap. Now, the Steel Trap talent is a single target immobilized and deals significant bleed damage over 20 seconds. Now, the Ranger's Net talent is a simple snare, but the cooldown is only 1 second. So I'm not really sure about that cooldown, but unless diminishing returns sets in pretty quickly, it's going to be really useful in PvP. Now, even with that, I think I still favor Caltrops or Steel Trap, mainly because it has a damage component. So just like your Tier 2 row set, you can use the traps to wait out some significant buff to fade, or get up, basically get up close and personal to add damage, and when you're at that moment when you're just ready to tear it up. The fourth tier is a bit confusing in terms of theme, but it has sticky bombs, camouflage, and throwing axes as choices. Now, sticky has this, you throw a sticky bomb at your target, and it has this delayed effect which damages and knocks down the target after 3 seconds. Camo works like a, well, it works as a stealth buff for 1 minute that heals you while the ability is active, and it gives your first attack after getting out of camouflage, a damage buff. And well, the last talent is throwing axes, and it simply throws 3 axes at range, and each axe will deal damage. Now, to be honest, this tier looks very useful in PvP. Sticky is good for timing and stopping casters when you can sort of predict a certain cast time spell will go off or stop some runners from getting away. Now, Camo looks like it's really useful to get off some heals if you can basically pillar or distance yourself for a bit. And I'm just not sure if it will break if you move or you have to stay in one place to activate the ability. But yeah, the healing looks nice. The 5th tier has you choosing among Thrill of the Hunt, Dragon's Fire Trap, and Snake Hunter. Now, Thrill pretty much works like the way it does right now. Well, pretty much. Now, Dragon's Fire is another trap that deals damage over time effect, which can also inflict fire damage to nearby enemies. And Snake Hunter gives you 3 charges, of Mongoose Bite. Now, in terms of surefire damage and when you actually need it, or if you want to or are ready to blow up a target, then I might go or suggest Mongoose Bite. Now, I mentioned in the class preview upload that Mongoose damage stacks. So basically, if you can sort of pool your bites, that's like a strong series of attacks, which is 50% stronger each time. So that looks really solid and really good. The second to the last tier revolves around bleed damage, or at least making good use of it. So you've got Butchery, Mortal Wounds, and Serpent Sting. Now, Butchery works with 2 other abilities called Laceration and Carve. I mean, man, these ability names just sound really bloody. But anyway, Laceration is a simple bleed over time effect, while Carve is a frontal sweep attack. Now, what Butchery simply does is to spread Laceration effects to all those targets affected by Carve. Now, Mortal Wounds is a proc type talent where Laceration can give you a chance to gain a Mongoose Bite charge, while the last option of the tier, Serpent Sting, gives Carve and Raptor Strike a chance to apply the Serpent Sting damage over time effect. I really like tier 6. It really gives you that damage over time feel for the survival spec. Butchery looks really good in terms of AoE situations, so it very much reminds me of Affliction Locks and Death Knight Diseases. Serpent Sting also is good because it gives you options on whether to apply the sting in single target or AoE scenarios. I really like options. The final tier has no set theme, but it gives you these picks, so Sentry Turret, Expert Trapper, and Aspect of the Beast. Now, the turret option simply summons a turret that shoots fire damage for the next 15 seconds. Now, Trapper buffs all your traps in basically significant ways. So, what it does is that Freezing Trap will have a snare effect once it fades. Explosive Traps trickle damage increases. Now, there's also a chance to root enemies in Tar Trap. Damage can be added to the Steel Trap trigger, and Dragon's Fire Trap can spread its damage over time component to nearby enemies. So, basically, multiple effects for your multiple traps. Now, Aspect of the Beast, it's strange, but it buffs your kill command. Well, it's strange to see it in a survival spec, but what it does is it buffs your kill command ability depending on your pet spec. So if it's ferocity, then it has the kill command will have a bleed effect to go with it, and if your pet is tenacity, it gives your pet damage reduction, and if your pet is spec cunning, then it sort of gets a permanent slow effect on their target for as long as you can maintain it or until you cancel it. At least that's what the talent says. So yeah, I'm not sure about the final tier, but Sentry, well, at least in terms of fun, Sentry Turret sounds fun, mainly because it's a new-ish idea for the spec, but or the class itself. But I also like the kill command buffs to add damage over time component of, well, or basically sort of, I guess, the perma-slow effect for targets for as long as you can keep kill command up. And there you have the SV Hunter spec talents. Now, it's one of the specs that I'm really excited about in Legion, and I guess that's mainly because it's a new-ish spec. Finally, Hunters are getting a melee spec. I mean, we had that sort of had it with the older Hunter versions of the Hunter class from before, but it was never really full-blown melee. Yeah, but right now it's really exciting. But it's still, what's good about it is that it's sort of keeping the bleed or the damage over time feel of survival Hunters. So and I can also see right now the amount of work that Blizzard is putting into the survival hunter spec. It's really a very big change in terms of how hunters should go. Yes, I know it's probably not new to other classes. Like if you're a death knight, oh, we get those things, those damage over time things. When you see the harpoon ability of survival hunters, yeah, we get that with warriors, yeah. But in terms of being a male wearing class or male armored class, yeah, it's pretty good. These changes are really refreshing for the class itself. Um, one thing about it is that it doesn't feel lame, though there are some because there are still some burst capabilities, even though it's very damage over time oriented. It does have burst capability, especially with the mongoose bite stacking. So we don't even know everything about the class yet, so there are probably some other ways to burst down a target, not just to wait out your bleeds to really just take its toll on the target. Now, well, again, aside from the Demon Hunter class, this is really one spec in class I'm really looking forward to in playing. Again, just keep in mind that things can change, even though this one's posted in multiple websites like MMO Champ and Wowhead. Things can still change, talents can move around, and numbers can be basically tweaked. What they say can be significant bleed damage may not be significant when the spec goes live. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.